Wanna be where you are, want you to look the way, boy. Be my superstar, your love is all it takes, boy. Wanna be where you are, want you to look.
Hi there, it's Paul here from the House of the Outsiders, and thank you for dropping by. I'm back with another page in my mixed media journey. If you remember last week, I cracked open my Dina Wakley mixed media book and started at the first page. And here's the second page, the dreaded canvas. In my mind, dreaded. I mean, I'm not speaking for everyone else. Because I've never worked on, well, I say canvas, sorry, it's burlap. And I've never worked on burlap. And so I anticipated it might not be easy, but having never experimented and played with this material, I'm pretty sure I made quite a lot of mistakes as I learnt. My first step, as I thought, well, it's this horrible brown colour, which is fine if you like that horrible blacky brown colour, but it's not me. I like bright colours. And I thought what would make it look so unburlappy would be to paint it pink. And I guessed, that I'd need to lay a layer of gesso down to add paint to it. I have since making this making this page, certainly, I've gone online and looked at YouTube videos of other people who have painted on burlap. Yeah, you'd think I might have done that beforehand, but no, I decided to do it after. And I saw that some people, I suppose it depends on the paint you use, were painting directly onto burlap. Not necessarily in the mixed media book, but apparently, according to certain YouTube channels, that burlap has been big in the craft scene, in the do-it-yourself scene. So, just not sure if I needed to gesso it or not, but I did. And then I used a heck of a lot of pink paint. If that had been paper, I would have used a fraction of what I used to cover the burlap. So I have to say it's not the most economical material to paint on, because I kept squeezing blobs of paint out onto my piece of scrap paper, and then squeezed another blob and squeezed another blob, and it just really didn't go very far at all. So yeah, might rethink it, because this isn't the only burlap page I've got in this book. There are others, and yeah, in my head I am already thinking of different ways I can go with the burlap. But for this one, I thought I would try to do something that's akin to my normal style of art journaling. And well, as you'll see or not see when I come to the end of this video, whether I've achieved making something that's similar to what I normally do, or whether it looks better or worse. But I have to say, it was a lot harder, and you don't have as much freedom. So, I couldn't texturize or colour it as freely as I wanted to. It was easy to lay down a solid colour, but not so easy to sort of like, so if I wanted to add a little dark shadow here and there, or detail, yeah, burlap is not the place to do detail. So seems it's great for stenciling onto. So when I do a future video, expect to see a bit more stenciling. Anyway, talking of stenciling, once I had painted my burlap, so it was a nice pink colour, you will have seen that I laid on a repeat stencil, and laid it with a lighter colour and coloured on top, just to give it some kind of variation, something in the background that wasn't a flat plain colour. Now I have no problems with that. Personally, I'd like a flat plain colour and then doodle on top, but with a stencil, fine. Here, I will talk about this because, rather than verge off the subject, I started painting this in this dark green, so I thought that dark green was going to be opaque enough to cover the background, but as you can see, it's slightly translucent. So what I'm doing after I have painted it green and let it dry is to get some white paint and paint over the top of that, and that was far more opaque and covered up the background, and you can't see the stenciling underneath it. So once I've got that finely dry, because that's not the colour I wanted finally, I wanted the complementary colour of that bright kind of pinky red is to be the lime yellow green And so, yep, I had some distress paint that perfectly matched the colour. I stuck my die cut stencil out, which was in the shape of, I used a circle and an oval to create kind of a body shape that I could use as a stencil for the paint. But then, I thought about doing stick hands and stick feet. But there is an artist I follow who does something very similar, and I thought, well, I don't want to be seen as copying absolutely everything he does, although he's got a very different, a very beautiful style. He does his creatures with lots of fine hair details. That's absolutely stunning. I mean, I do a version that's, as I say, very much flat and bold. So anyway, I'm rambling again, my style. So I drew in pencil the little feet, the little arms, and I added some gesso, again just to make it opaque for the colour that goes on top. I added the distress green just to make sure I've got some legs and arms added to the body. So they're looking a little more like the usual style of figures I draw, and yep, didn't take as much paint. The distress paint was quite fluid, so yeah, but it went on nice and easy, which I was grateful for. I also found that the eventual technique I went for was sponging on. I tried a sponge brush, I tried a normal acrylic paintbrush, and with varying results and success, and ended up sort of like trying, well, I tried makeup sponges, again didn't work too well. Just took an ordinary sea sponge that you find in art stores, especially one that I don't tend to use for sponging. It's kind of condensed rather than lots of pattern on it. And I found that using that to sponge the paint into the burlap worked really well and onto the top. So yeah, that's one lesson I learned. Once I'd drawn it, I took some of my paint pens, the Posca variety, and I took a pink, not because that was going to be the base colour, but for the kind of horn and hair piece and the teeth. I got this pink, it was fairly opaque, and I laid it down as kind of a base colour because I knew that I wanted to paint, especially the horns and the teeth, I wanted to paint in a yellow colour, and yellows are very typically, and I know this from my Posca pens too, it's very typically a translucent paint, so I wanted something that's a base colour. Then once I'd laid that down, I set about with a black marker, and I tend to outline almost everything in a black paint pen, so I did. I coloured in the little critter's expressions, and as you can see, I painted its little Mohican horny hair. It was supposed to be a piece of hair, but it kind of looks like a Mohican horn thing, an extra horn, so I will leave it up to the viewer to decide what that blue piece is. And just to add a little something to the middle. Now the thing is, if this was paper, I could quite easily add a few little blobs and details to the creature, little spots and things, but I'm working on this burlap, it's not so easy. Bold shapes, much easier. And I wanted a pink that goes in there, and I preferred the colour I have of another paint pen, the Molotov section. So I took the pink and made a circle. It's a bit of a squiffy circle, not quite as circular. It looks like it's been a bit bashed in on one side, but anyway. And then I got a dark purple and created a little cross in it, so it just gives it extra detail. And finally, to ground my little critter, I gave him a shadow, again using Posca pens, a grey pen. And so, having finally managed to paint a background, a critter on top, looking very similar to the kind of pages I've been making recently. I hoped, and it was the case, that just doing one of my simple borders, as in just getting a black paint pen and drawing it, would just give me a nice easy border. However, also once I'd finished it, I discovered that, or I thought that what I wanted to do was add some white spots, and I do have a thick Molotov white pen, as it's a round nib, and all I had to do is kind of just dab circles of paint around it. So I knew drawing the words on was out of the question. It's far too complicated, far too detailed. So for the journaling aspect, for the quote, I printed it out on computer and then stuck them on with some liquid glue rather than glue stick, some nice strong glue. And yep, took me a while to decide where to place the pieces, but stuck them on in the place I sort of finally decided on. And the final bit was to take my black pen again and outline the quotes. So again, I got this quote from a podcast I listened to, Whimsically Volatile, and it's a quote from a song, or a misquote from a song that I found quite amusing. And yep, so we're coming to the end. That's the page. Whether it's better or worse than my normal pages, you let me know. But as I say, I feel pleased that I've kept it in a style that is normal to me. But yeah, I'm going to have to think again when it comes to the next Burlap page. So wait and see. Anyway, thanks for listening to my ramblings, and I shall speak to you soon. Bye for now.